everybody, and welcome to another night at the Theatah. Recently, we saw the new movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the 7th, I believe, installment in the Planet of the Apes franchise. And I gotta say, this movie was pretty spectacular. Oh, I think he liked it. I'm gonna go on record, this is one of the best sequels I've ever seen. Straight
some Empire Strikes Back shit.
That's a pretty bold fucking statement, but I agree with it.
This is some From Russia with Love shit.
It was pretty, like I said, it was pretty spectacular.
This isn't some Godfather 2 shit, but it is pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Oh my... Oh God.
It was just a little bit of a stroke of brilliance this year.
Okay. I've been waiting for this since I was like 12. Like, I'm gonna go on record and just say this right now. I'm not gonna go too deep into the why, because I do plan on doing a video on my top 10 favorite films. But Planet of the Apes from 1968 is my favorite film of all time.
Not the Tim Burton one?
No. No, that's on the other list. That is my most hated movie. And for
Can't we all just get along?
Shut the fuck up.
I'm Limbo.
Shut the fuck up. You are not, to quote Paul Giamatti right now. Nor Monkey Clark Duncan, that's not racist. Or Helena Baboon Carter. None of them.
We have our own little names for these movies, but yeah. Anyway, you were saying.
No. It's my favorite movie. I watched all of them when I was about 10, and I'd accumulated the VHSs of each of them over the years, and I'd watched them, and I hunted them out specifically. I loved weird movies when I was a kid. I loved those old-timey sci-fi films. I'm very much into the Day the Earth Stood Still, stuff like that, and Planet of the Apes, to me, was one of the very first films that ever truly challenged me. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's silly, and I've heard a lot of people say that it suspends a lot of, you need to suspend a lot of disbelief in order to, sure, yeah, it's not that plausible. Like, this entire
It's almost like it's science fiction.
Kinda, like, it's a stretching of the truth, sure, but that's just the nature of fiction in general. You have to exaggerate things.
Yeah.
And this setup is so rich in its social commentary. From day one, it's always been a great film about tolerance and the absence thereof in the nature of not just humans, not just apes, but just sentient creatures in general. Those who can think bad thoughts, can be intolerant, can hate, but they can also feel compassion. And there were characters in that movie and in this movie that really encapsulated that quite a bit. And I saw this movie. I have to confess I didn't see it today, so I'm just gonna say that right now. It's still very much etched in my mind.
Oh,
but if I'm a little foggy on my details, please forgive me. But this film, I enjoyed I enjoyed Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I enjoyed it. It didn't surmount the original for me, but nothing really surmounts the original for me. So I didn't hold it to those standards walking in.
It was a movie just that, I like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I thought it was a good movie, some great special effects, some great non-speaking acting. But then we saw this movie.
Yeah.
This Planet of the Apes from the 60s is always going to be there as that thing. That was just, it's never going to be, surmounted as like the classic Planet of the Apes.
It doesn't have as big of a following as it did, but it was huge when it was huge.
But to what I'm saying, this is going to come close, I think, to being remembered as the ape movie.
Yeah, like our planet. I walked out of that movie with Fleets and my friend Pierre, and he was in my Transcendence review, and we had just gone to go see it, and I made a very bold statement in the fact that I was considering this movie to be the Planet of the Apes of the digital generation.
I couldn't see that.
And yeah, it's a Planet of the Apes movie, and yes, it's a sequel, but it is a true successor, and I believe a true prequel, a true possibility prequel, mind you.
There's some hinting in the first movie that they're setting up people going into space and getting lost, and
exactly.
This really does seem like it's starting its own franchise.
But it also feels like it could lead into the old one.
Yeah.
It feels like a modern interpretation of... See, because in original Planet of the Apes, the original 4 movies were... There, you had Planet of the Apes 1, and then you had the prequels. You had 2, which was a direct sequel to 1, but was also a prequel because it involved reverse time travel.
Weird stuff going. Maybe
strange.
We shouldn't go into.
No. But I'm just saying I'm just saying in terms of the original sequel versus this sequel. This one, the original was a true sequel, but it also was something more. It was a way of exploring how that society came to be, which was a crux of the original movie, because it kept addressing old human society, but it kept distancing itself from the idea that it was Earth. It just felt like an Earth-like planet until we got the drop at the end.
Yeah.
This film is a direct sequel, and it's nothing more, but it is a true successor, and I believe to be a true entry in the canon that Planet of the Apes 1 started.
Yes, I would say that as well. I guess we should start talking more about the movie and the plot proper.
Yes.
So this movie takes place, I think, 10 years after the first one.
10 years.
They mentioned 10 moons or something like along those lines. Ape talk.
Can I just say one thing though before we move into the plot proper? I just want to make one little note. The intro.
Oh,
to this
my goodness.
Film. This is the best use of 3D I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's not used to make something pop out at you. It's used to add depth.
It makes you feel like you're... I don't even think we should say what the scene is because it's so amazing, but you feel like, spoilers, they're swinging in trees, they are apes. You feel like you're in the trees with them, basically.
You do.
Anyway, so 10 years after the events of the first film, I believe, the apes are living, they have created their own society in the woods, and they're learning, they're teaching their young how to sign, which that was one of my favorite things with the movie. How
Me too.
Their main language was actually sign.
Me too.
They could talk, some of them, and it was very hoarse, very like, ape, no, like, very hoarse, but like their main language was sign language. Like, to compare it to a completely different in-tone movie, it reminded me of WALL-E. Like the beginning of WALL-E, how everything is mimed and like sounds, which is great. I thought it was very good. But anyway, so they built their society. Meanwhile, the humans are on the brink of extinction because in the first film, there was the virus that's killed off humans. Basically, any human alive is only alive because they're immune to the virus at this point.
Because of constant non-lethal exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the humans who live in the cities and the apes who live in the forests, and they haven't seen each other for like 2 years. Then shit starts happening. The humans, I believe, need a power source.
They need a dam.
They needed the dam.
There is a dam inside the apes, because it's very much segmented into the apes property, and then they have their little enclave, which the apes have sort of allowed to exist. It's very much, there's politics to the ape society, and this is really, really cool, because they've developed to the point where they have almost perfectly human interactions through sign, and through grunts. It's so magnificent. I love seeing shots and sequences done completely free of dialogue. The apes do talk, but it's shown. Caesar is the first to speak, and him speaking and him bellowing is basically the starting shot for the apes to really start their character development.
Yeah.
But within the politics of the ape society, there is the gnawing question of whether or not they should just do away with the humans that are over there. Caesar, because he stayed with James Franco's character in the first movie, knows firsthand that there are good people out there.
He does hold that belief. There's also, his excuse to why he just doesn't go out there anyway. I think he says something along the lines of, they're probably all dead at this point anyway. Why even bother? We're safe here, we're happy here. And meanwhile, Koba from the first film, remember the one with the scars?
Koba, yeah.
Yeah. He hates humans with whole
Violently.
Violently hates humans. And for obvious reasons. He was tortured, he was experimented on.
By Draco Malfoy.
No, not Koba. Koba was the one who was in the lab all the time. He was the one who spent his whole life in labs.
Oh, okay. Alright, okay.
Remember,
that makes more sense.
So, he's very much oh no, we need to kill them now while we have the chance, sort of deal, while they're weak. And he made a very good, spoilers, villain.
Yeah. No.
He was a great villain, and I was legitimately surprised that they made him. I thought maybe there might be an ape as like the secondary villain. I thought going into this, Gary Oldman, who was amazing in this, by the way,
as totally not Jim Gordon.
yeah.
Come on, he's Jim Gordon.
Yeah, okay, he's Jim. Okay, but he's great as Jim Gordon.
No, he is. He's a perfect Jim Gordon. He's not Jim Gordon entirely, but he's Jim Gordon.
Yeah, but my point was I thought going in. Gary Oldman would be the villain. He's not. I wouldn't even consider it villain-esque even. Okay, he's got the makings of, but anyway. But no, Koba is the straight-up villain in this. And I was like, this guy, he was a really good villain. He's cunning. He's scary. He's brutal. Oh my god, this is a brutal movie at some points.
It is.
But I gotta say though, I have never been more simultaneously terrified and overcome with hilarity than the scene where Koba is riding on a horse, 2 rifles in his hands, like,
he's just gunning people down on a horse.
And I'm sorry.
There's apes doing this, all over the place.
Never so simultaneously terrified of something, yet laughing my ass off. Because, look, I'm sorry, it's just so instilled into, our collective consciousness that an ape riding a horse with a gun is funny. I'm sorry, it is.
But
it is terrifying.
It's an ape riding a horse, but still, no, it's a frenzying ape riding a horse with 2 guns that he knows how to use.
That's sort of okay, what the hell?
But the thing about Koba is he makes a great...
It's Koba, but with a B.
They were pronouncing it with a P, though.
I know it's with a B, but anyway, sorry.
Okay, sure. Anyways, the thing about Koba is he is very much he's set up to be Caesar's foil, but he is the opposite side of Gary Oldman's coin.
Yeah.
They're both characters deeply rooted in prejudice, but Gary Oldman's character sort of plays Kopa's character, but in Caesar's role.
Yeah, because Gary Oldman in this, he doesn't hate the apes. He hates what they did, but he doesn't. Even he says they're animals. And when you say it like that, you can't really it's not a hate so much as I want to wipe them out. It's more this has to happen. You know what I mean? Mm. Koba, at the end of the day, this was what made him a good villain. In in the end, Koba wasn't really doing it for the apes. He was doing it even if he never would admit it, he was doing it to make himself feel better.
He was doing it to kill humans, yes. However, the Planet of the Apes has always been about intolerance and stuff like that.
It's there in Gary Oldman's character.
Gary Oldman plays a character who wants to be a very good man. He doesn't want to come off as the sort of leader who would sort of go all fascist on the apes and just want to slaughter all of them. And yes, it is true. In the heat of the moment, he shouted, "They're animals." But that shows a deeply rooted attitude that has been instilled in him throughout the entire film. The only reason he ever wanted to seek out any sort of peaceful solution was because his friend wanted to seek out a peaceful solution.
And you know what? I appreciated that.
The main character of this film, I cannot remember his name.
You know who I honestly...
Marcus.
You know who I thought played him at first? He didn't, but Chris Pratt, the guy from Parks and Rec, and he's going to be Star-Lord in Guardians.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
But it's not him.
Yeah. But this guy, he was a scientist, and he was trying to go and fix the dam so that they can all get power, because he knows how to fix it. And he wants to be tolerant towards the apes, him and his wife and his kid.
His stepwife.
Stepwife, yes, and his kid. Because they don't really see the virus, because people are prejudiced against the apes because of the virus.
It was called the simian flu.
Yes, and we see that prejudice deeply in one of the people who comes with them, who keeps smuggling guns into the site with them, because they keep traveling in this van to get to the dam, and he's basically their muscle. But he's got this deeply inlaid prejudice where basically this conversation happens, and you can see it in the trailer, so it's not spoilers or anything, but his stepwife says they carried the virus. They didn't want to carry the virus. They carried the virus only because of a treatment that humans gave them. You cannot hate them.
They even say that...
Who am I supposed to hate
basically. And that's
It's
as
the
much
most
as
telling line in the film.
yeah, and even though that comes like at first glance, that just comes off like an asshole line, like well, who am I going to?
It's the underlying feeling of the entire
It's a very
society.
strong statement to make, like because it really sends ripples throughout, like how unfortunately the human race thinks there has to be someone to blame,
And it's mirrored in the ape society, yes, through Koba and through pretty much most people. Caesar is not shown to have the ear of every single ape in his society.
It's almost like Caesar sees it from both sides.
He has a circle of people who believe what he believes, and they support him. And he is their leader because he was the original intelligent ape. He taught them to speak, he taught them to act, he taught them to think. And he is to be respected. He is considered to be the old guard, but he is considered to be the wiser. He is wiser than Koba. And Koba, as you say, was tortured through most of his life, and yes, he does have a legitimate right to want to hurt humanity. These films have never been about painting humanity in any sort of positive light. This movie is pretty light on it. It's very subtle about it, much more subtle than the original film was.
Yeah.
But this movie doesn't seem to want to pick either side, because in the Planet of the Apes canon, a big theme has been no one side is right.
That's what I was really appreciative of this movie, because I always fear that movies like this with, they clearly have a message, and this movie's message was subtle, let's just say that.
Yes.
But I was really afraid going in that they were going to paint the message of, no, the humans are evil, look at the folly of their ways.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do that. Spoilers again, the apes start the war. Straight up.
They do. Like in the original film, I don't want to go too much into the original film, but just for some context, the original film painted the humans terribly.
Yeah.
Because it was made in the late 60s, and bad things were happening, the wrong presidents were being elected, and it was a social commentary about very brutal times. And it was only saved for me by the fact that the apes were not portrayed as any better. They have a society, and they are now the dominant society because of a conquest. They are not much better off than the humans. They are the progeny of the human race.
Exactly.
They are our children, our legacy to the earth, and they hate just as much as we do. And that's where the commentary is strong in Apes.
It goes with, like, the people in charge are, like, the ones making the bad decisions. Really, in the original movie, the only good apes were Zero and Cornelius and that teenager.
Yeah, and that one intern they brought with them for the third
Yeah, that was just like the most
to
random.
To this day, I still don't know who the fuck that is.
It's just like, although it does give for the greatest line Charlton Heston said in that movie: "Don't trust anyone over 30."
Exactly. He's the younger generation. Yeah. They shoehorned him in the end, but
just
who
because,
gives a shit?
Wrong movie.
This movie does that.
I like what they do. Yeah, they add...
and they're more subtle about
Caesar's son, Blue Eyes, was his name, right?
Yes. That's such a great callback to Bright Eyes!
Yeah. Named him after his grandma. Aww. Yeah. But Caesar's son, Blue Eyes, is in this. He was really good. The whole youth thing of, like, who do I trust? Do I trust with my head and my heart sort of deal?
He's the new guard who's listening to both sides of the old guard.
But he wants to listen more to what the new people have to say.
He's enticed by their ways. Yeah. He's enticed by the violence and the immediate now times retribution.
He's very, because, in the movie, he has a younger brother, a newborn brother, so he wants to protect him.
Yeah.
There's a very good scene with that, too.
Yeah.
And so it's good that. But we haven't talked yet. I can't believe we haven't talked yet about the best part of this movie.
Tell me.
Caesar.
Yeah! Andy Serkis.
Jesus Christ. Give
the
man an Oscar, please.
For God's sakes, if this video counts for anything in this universe, get Andy Serkis an Oscar. For this.
People have said, he should have got one for Gollum. He should have. He should have got one for Caesar in the first movie. He should have. Like, Jesus Christ, though, if the man has ever... Look, I don't believe in Oscars. I don't believe in all this award shit, but if the man has ever deserved a fucking statue... This movie, please!
It's so great. He opened his doors to his mocap studio to a director that cites Planet of the Apes, much like me, as one of his favorite films. And the director made this as a love letter to the original series. And the first film, while it didn't capture that Planet of the Apes feel for me absolutely, because it was a loose adaptation of what could be a Planet of the Apes sequel, this film This film creates a universe that puts Rise of the Planet of the Apes in an entirely new cinematic light for me. I watched it again and I enjoyed it all the more because I knew that it led up to something so unbelievably cool.
And Andy Serkis was just the greatest person to take us on that ride.
Exactly! He is a mocap god. He is a physical acting god.
Like, it's just, like, it's so, like, amazing to me how, like, the way the man can move just to look exactly like a chimp.
Yeah.
And just, oh my god, he was great in this. You know who else I really like? Which other ape I like? And I've always liked this one. Maurice, the orangutan.
Yeah.
I really like Maurice in these movies.
He's a good character.
He's played by a woman, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure.
Maurice he's an enormous orangutan who constantly signs. He doesn't speak. If he
has one line in this movie, which
Run.
It was the best line in the entire movie. When when we're entering that part where everything's going to hell, the humans are going to be blamed for it. You just see Maurice run.
Yeah, it's the
That was my favorite thing.
It's the family who's always been really, really okay with the apes.
They're nice.
But the apes have always treated them with distrust because they're humans. So distrust humans. Caesar comes to trust them. It's very, very apprehensive trust at first, but he comes to trust them almost to the point of it's almost a reverse of Taylor, Cornelius, and Zira.
There you go.
Oh my god, it's like a reverse of Taylor, Cornelius, and Zira.
I bet you that's what they were going for.
Yeah, like it's two kindly human scientists who interact with the main character who is sort of trying to embody what he wants humanity to be. It's a very reverse Taylor, but we can very much see Cornelius and Zira in the two scientist characters and their kid. Their kid's even like the intern.
Actually, I gotta say, my favorite, because this movie is a heavy movie, it's brutal, but there's a couple light moments. My favorite light moment is when the son is teaching Maurice to read a comic.
That's really
they can read because they can write and they can read, but they can't read comics because they don't get the bubbles, I guess.
Exactly.
But it's just awesome to see him teaching how to read comics. I swear to God, in the next movie, if you just see Maurice drawing a comic, I'm gonna go, ah!
That's awesome. He's gonna become orangutan George R.R. Martin.
Yeah! Oh!
Yeah!
Kind of looks like him.
No offense to George R.R. Martin, but that orangutan kind of looks like you.
He's got the hair.
Yeah!
Put one of the golf hats on him and you're done. There you go.
Now I'm George R.R. Martin. No, I'm not.
You look like something George R.R. Martin would eat.
Yes.
To gain more power.
I'm George R.R. Martin on Slim Man. No. But yeah, in the end, my favorite comedic sequences, and these are actually kind of dark because the stupid fucking human scenes where
Koba.
These fucking humans are fucking retarded. They see this ape who's totally playing.
There's this really tense moment leading up to it where Koba is looking at guns and two humans come in and they're gonna say, should we shoot him? Koba, who we know is no nonsense, who hates humans more than anything, and what he starts doing is he starts acting like a circus ape where he starts going ooh, 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 and he starts going just to make them laugh so he can get away. And it's so dark because you know what's gonna happen.
And there's two sequences of it.
Don't spoil the second one.
No, I won't. But it's dark.
It's really dark.
It's really fucking dark. Complete and total 180.
Just something that just occurred to me. This is not a nitpick. This is nothing. This is just weird to me. Doesn't it feel like the first movie should have been called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and this one should have been called Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
That's just a weird thing to me. I don't know the reasons. It just really feels like they got the titles reversed.
You know what?
Nothing wrong with that.
You know what? Rise of the Planet of the Apes because it was the rise of a new species, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes because they're still primitive.
I guess. No, I know why. I guess why. See, Rise is just one of those words that Hollywood likes to throw into their movies.
I know. I just sort of see this as a film that's going to lead into 1968 or a remake of 1968 one day. So I just sort of see this as them being primitive because in the original movie, they weren't primitive.
Oh no, they weren't advanced.
They were technologically.
They were at the point of clothing and architecture.
They had human society to build on. They still had things that had records.
They had humor,
information in them.
That is still one of my favorite aspects, and I have no idea if this was intentional in the original movie. The first words we hear out of Apes in the original Planet of the Apes movie is, it's right after the hunt, right, for the humans. We see that some humans have been killed, some have been captured, some are being hung up. But what we see are 3 gorillas standing on a pile of human bodies, much like how humans do when they caught like a buck or a bear. First word out of an ape in that movie is one with the camera, and he goes, "Smile." That's the first word. I wonder if that was intentional for it to be comedic. Because there was just something about seeing a gorilla with a camera going, "Smile," and then 3 gorillas smiling.
Yeah. That was a pretty actually
I liked how in this movie we do start seeing, because in the original movies too, the apes, even though they're all equal, they're very much different jobs for the 3 apes.
That's actually in the book.
Yeah, no, I know. But that's what I mean. We start seeing that here. The gorillas are very much the guards, the the enforcers. The chimps the chimps are the leaders and the hunters. The orangutans are the teachers, sort of deal.
Actually,
the wise ones.
Chimps were scientists.
Well, no, I mean in this movie though.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Like, they're very much hunters and warriors in this one, and Caesar's the leader. And bonobos are basically chimps, so same thing.
Yeah, but I thought all of the shots of the ape society, because they're very
that was the best
shots.
part of the movie.
They're beautiful, beautiful fucking
this
shots.
movie, like, I wouldn't think that, because this movie is very, like, I don't want to say drab, but it is dark and wet looking, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
but good comparison. It's like Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
In its color. It's very diluted.
Similar color
but
palette.
it's very noticeable. It's still colorful without being colorful, basically.
It looks like it was shot in a forest.
It does.
With proper forest lighting.
I would really like to know, like, how much of that was filmed in the actual redwoods.
I would love to know that.
It's just like, what I want to know is, because I feel like some of the close-ups of Maurice were an actual orangutan. I like to find that out.
Yeah. And if it's not, it's a damn fine scene.
Yeah. And also, like, because obviously all the apes are CGI in this, for, like, the acting moments. It's some of the best I've ever seen.
Seamless CGI.
This harkens to me to the days of, like, Jurassic Park.
Fucking seamless.
Where it's just like, where'd they get the T-Rex?
Yeah.
This movie, where'd they get the ape that could stand on its hind legs and speak?
Where'd you get that guy? How'd you train that guy?
What do you mean? Where does he live? I want to go to his house.
Oh, that's fucking cool. I want to fucking go see the talking ape. It's cool. I don't care if he enslaves me one day. I'm gonna be like, whatever, dude. You know what my favorite shot in this movie was?
What?
My favorite shot in this movie was just after the apes attacked the human camp. And everything was on fire, and they start shouting about, now you will know what it is like to be in cages. They brought the wheel cages from '68, or at least ones that are designed exactly.
There is that moment of, like,
you can see '68's Apes universe slowly seeping into the fray.
Do you know what I liked?
It's beautiful.
You know what I liked?
What?
About this? The entire reversal of habitat by the end of this movie. The beginning, the apes are in the woods, the humans are in the city. Now, by the end of the movie, the apes are in the cities. Where are the humans gonna go? They gotta go to the woods.
Yeah.
They've done that.
Yeah.
They switched habitat in this movie.
And that makes sense with the fact that humans become primitives in 1968's Planet of the Apes.
Yep.
That makes so much sense. They have to go into the woods and they slowly but surely de-evolve into apes.
I'm honestly thinking the next movie is going to be called either, like, War or Battle of the Planet of the Apes, because it does end on sort of a trailery note. A sequel-y note where it's just like, war. They've called the other humans. Oh, they're gonna come. They're going to blow everything up.
Oh no! This was very much sequel baiting. No.
Yeah, which I want to see.
Sure, this has to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
No. This has to be.
It's going to be apparently a franchise at this point.
That's
like.
This is like. I prayed for this. Like, I'm not religious, and I was like, on the chance you're there, can I get a really, really good Planet of the Apes movie?
In this day and age, please.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's my favorite. It sounds like a very superfluous thing to pray for, but this is like... The day that I realized that I wanted to become a filmmaker was the day I just sort of watched Planet of the Apes again for the first time in a long time, and just remembered all the reasons why I'd watch it 5 times in a day.
See, that's why I'm really hoping the new Jurassic World really works out better, because, Jurassic Park is the reason I want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
But to what I was saying, though, like it's not just a great sequel. Like I said, it's one of the best I've seen.
It's a great
straight
film.
up. It is. It's great filmmaking.
Yeah.
This is well acted, well written. It's paced exquisitely. It's like every scene has a purpose. There's no bullshit.
There's no filler.
There's no filler in this movie.
Nothing at all.
There's no, like, I mean, yeah, they're husband and wife, but there's no, like, forced-in romance of, like, fuck you.
Yeah, the problem is, like, okay.
And also,
On that note, you can't go to the bathroom in this movie.
No.
You cannot go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah. That,
No.
Go with an empty bladder, because every scene counts in this.
Yeah, get the large drink, but hold it.
The only scene that honestly...
Fuck this movie.
The only scene that honestly has no consequence to the plot, but like I said, it's like my favorite scene, is the comic scene. That was just a nice bit of, like, we need some levity before everything goes to hell.
Shots for shots' sake is not a bad thing. Like, you can have good imagery shots.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be action. Not everything has to be,
Exactly.
I'm doing drama, and now I'm doing drama, now I'm doing drama, and great performances. There are times for subtle little moments.
We need to breathe every now and then.
Yes.
And this movie knows that. Like, I mean,
This
I'm
movie's
gonna say
full of
this
these
may have...
brilliant little moments.
This is definitely, and I'm very curious to see if anything tops this. This is like one of the better movies I've seen this year.
Yeah.
Like this, along with like I'm gonna say Dragons 2, Days of Future Past, and the Lego Movie.
Oh yeah.
And I'll throw in Godzilla. I love Godzilla. That movie has grown on me so much. This is probably the best movie I've seen this year. I haven't seen Grand Budapest. That's the only reason I'm saying this.
I do want to see Grand Budapest.
Everyone tells me if you see Grand Budapest, you're gonna love that. So I'm honest. I'm giving that movie a recommendation. I haven't even seen it, people.
I'm going to go one step further than you. I'm going to say this is the best film I have seen in the past 10 years.
Okay, that's a bold statement, but I can see where you come from, especially.
It is the best sequel and best... If I had seen this just after watching Planet of the Apes from 1968, they would have tied for me.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been... Because of the fact that there is a huge generation gap between 1968 and this...
Obviously, the acting is different,
I need to appreciate
sort of
it in a different way. And in that comparison, it cannot surpass 68 for me. But I love it just as much for different reasons.
Isn't that wonderful, though? Because that doesn't happen enough these days with remakes. Like, no. What I mean is, look, I got introduced to Planet of the Apes through my dad. My dad, when I was a little kid, showed me and my brother, Planet of the Apes. He said, oh, watch this movie. Me and my brothers used to watch it, and it scared your aunt, which I still think is hilarious. Mm-hmm. But she's, we watched, and I loved it when I was a kid. I thought, oh, this is a cool movie.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the problem with remakes or sequels, whatever. Like... Burn! Fuck you. Like, burn. Anyways, my dad, his generation have a Planet of the Apes. How wonderful is it that this generation has a Planet of the Apes?
Yep.
That doesn't happen enough.
No.
Like, guess what? Like, even our generation, you never know what's with the new ones, but our generation doesn't have a Star Wars to call our own because the prequels suck.
They do.
But the 70s and 80s, they have Star Wars. They have like all these other like they have Indiana Jones. They have Blade Runner.
You don't have a Blade Runner.
Yeah, we don't have, like all these remakes. That's just so wonderful to me that 10, 15 years from now, there's going to be kids who will know Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I mean, I'm going to tell you a little story before we stop this review, but it involves my friend. It involves Pierre. And my friend Pierre has, up until a little while ago, had a bit of a prejudice about him. He wouldn't watch films made before the 90s and 80s. He refused to watch even films in the 80s. He'd be very, very selective about, and even films in the 90s he'd be really selective about. But he's a very visual individual, and he says that the special effects simply could not bring him into the story. It just looked too fake to him when he watched older films. I showed him 1968's Planet of the Apes one day. We were house sitting for his mother. And it was the first film made before 1989 that he could say he could visually respect. It was because the special effects in 68 are just brilliant for their time. This is not, when I looked at it, I said this could have been made in the 80s. What was this, 81, 82, 83? No, 1968. Really? Motherfucking really? Like, the mouths moved, the hair looked legitimate, the ape skin looked legitimate. It looked like a costume, but you could buy that this was a bipedal talking ape if you just, wanted to believe it.
It didn't look like a mask.
It didn't look like a mask. It looked like really, really elaborate rubber work.
Yeah.
And it looked like skin-tight prostheses, but when you're 10, it looks like a talking, walking ape. And it was so brilliant to me because even when I was watching it much, much later, when I realized that it was my absolute favorite film of all time, I still believed it. I could still believe it. And in this movie, I feel that in 10 years from now, you will still be able to believe that these are walking, talking apes. It's just for different reasons.
It's the magic of film.
It is the magic of film. Making magic with space and light.
There you go.
It's beautiful.
So I say, go see this instead of Transformers Age of Extinction.
For goodness sakes.
Stop giving Michael Bay money. I don't even know the director's name. Go give him money.
I'm so ashamed of the fact that I don't know his name either. I just read up on it a little while ago in order to be able to
anyway,
But don't see Transformers 4.
Go see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So, I guess we're done?
Yeah.
All right, well, but no. I think there's only one thing last to say.
What's that?
I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee. No, they'll never make a monkey out of me. Da, 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 da. Oh my God, I was wrong. It was Earth all along. I guess we finally made a monkey. Yes, we finally made a monkey. They finally